1017 FM 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty, and on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline, State Representative Tanner Magee joining us. Tanner, good morning. Thanks for catching up with us here on this short notice.
No, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Well, for those that are just tuning in, of course, House Bill 2, the funding for Jimmy Davis Bridge was removed. The contract is already in place. A lot of people are thinking now this is retaliation for lawmakers from North Louisiana that didn't vote to bust the spending cap. What do you say to those accusations?
Well, I didn't even find out that the funding got removed until after the fact. In fact, a very rightfully angry and upset Thomas Presley called me, wanted to know what happened. I had no idea, and I'd been in a lot of meetings, so if it was really intentional, I think I would have heard about it before that moment. But and to be clear, the money, it's kind of complicated, but the money was reduced in P5, which is future funding, not current year funding. So what was going on current year and next year wasn't removed. It's for down the line for the next session. You put basically money in the project for future years, and you move that money down, and it got reduced from, I think, $151 billion to 15. Look, at the end of the day, I just think that there was a lot of confusion at the end of the session, and there was definitely a spirit or an intention to move projects and move money and funding to people who wanted to spend the money on infrastructure. I'm still not convinced, or I'm not sure that was people really realized in the kind of chaos that was happening was that money was being taken out of Jimmy Davis Bridge projects, and very important bridge project for not just Shreveport, but the state of Louisiana. And I know that lawmakers wouldn't have intentionally really wanted to do that.
You're quoted as saying, and I'm quoting, people who were against spending the money by voting against raising the cap weren't going to get the money. People who voted for infrastructure got infrastructure. People who voted against infrastructure didn't get infrastructure. You can't have it both ways. But that bridge is in Thomas Presley's district, Barrow Peacock's district, who both voted for raising the cap. So that's where the confusion in our area is. Was it, and now we're finding out, Mr. Magee, that the town of Houghton, the town of Benton, the town of Blanchard all got everything cut from that bill. It really smells like dirty politics. It really does. And I'm not sure who's to blame.
Sure, and look, I can clarify a couple of those things. We have a very antiquated system at the Capitol that probably should be upgraded, and that's why I don't think the Jimmy Bridge project was intentional. But I think it doesn't show up the project in people's districts. It shows up who applied for them. So if whoever applies puts Representative Horton's name on it, then the project is listed under Representative Horton, not under Representative Presley. But I still don't.
But that makes it look even worse.
I know, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm trying to say is all these reasons why I'm not sure that was really – I never heard anybody say that we weren't funding the Jimmy Davis Bridge project until after the fact. Now, the ones in Houghton, I can definitely tell you that, yeah, that is pretty much correct, and I know that's going to sound bad, but those projects were put in as member projects on the Senate side, probably through the state senator in those areas for Houghton, and that was based off of us having the money to spend on busting the spending cap. If those members did not want those projects, they knew that decision when they were making their vote. At the end of the day, those members chose that they wanted to pay down more debt than do infrastructure projects. Frankly,
that's my question then for you. And we're talking to Tanner Magee, Speaker Pro Tem. Here's where some of the small town mayors are telling me, not on the record because they don't want to tick these lawmakers off, but they're telling me these lawmakers, and I'm talking about Dodie Horton and some of the others, had a deal with you guys. Said, hey, we'll bust the spending cap, but here's the projects I want. And then after the fact, decided not to vote to bust. Was there a deal in place? Did you think you had these folks' votes?
Representative Horton definitely told people that she was voting for bust the spending cap. The day before, if we would have voted when we were supposed to, but then we realized there was a rule about when the Constitution can allow for lying over and all that kind of stuff, so we had to wait till the next day to vote. According to everybody in the room, Representative Horton was busting spending cap because it's not just the project. I mean, busting spending cap allowed us to teacher pay raises, supplemental pay for law enforcement, and do the big record debt payments of $700 million. So, yes, it was correct that everybody believed that Representative Horton was going to be voting for those projects, and then the next day she started waffling, and then nobody really knew what she was going to do at that moment in time. So it was a lot of confusion. And look, I mean this in the most sincere way possible. There's a lot going on. It's 105 members in the chamber. It's hard to keep track of everything in real time. So, I mean, there's a lot of confusion going on.
So that's when y'all said we're going to scratch Horton.
There was never – I know it's kind of difficult. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there was a real, concern. I think there was an instruction to people, if they don't vote for the projects, then you need to move those monies to people who are voting for those projects. I don't know if there was a very – and that's what the problem is, too. I mean, look, this is the thing that I get into and that really frustrates me is, and why probably Jimmy Davis Bridge got mixed up in everything, was we wanted SDR 3 to be voted up or down days before it was. We told members, look, if you don't vote for this, either way, for it or against it, doesn't matter. The Senate's not sending us HB 1, which is the budget, HB 2, back, which is the capital outlay budget, back to us because they're saying they don't know how much money is going to be in the budget altogether, so they're going to hold them. And if they hold them, we're going to get these budgets back with very little time to work on them. And I know people have no desire or interest in the mechanics of staff and what it takes. The night before these bills were released, staff stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and they returned at 6 o'clock in the morning with 3 hours of sleep, skipped dinner, ate dinner in their offices trying to get these budgets prepared in the timeline that was given to them, which was really delayed by certain members in the House, which caused us to be under a gun. I would never want to do that way.
Okay, let me ask you about that. Being delayed by certain members of the House. The lawmakers didn't have the required 48 hours to approve the bill. We had Presley told us we had 30 minutes.
That's not correct. There's no required 48 hours. That's A, not correct. B, that's just something that's being repeated on the radio and being made up. No rules were broken. But B, so we told them, this is days before the 48 hours thing. This is probably a week before. We said, look, unless we take a vote on SCR 3, we will not get these bills back until too late. And staff is going to be working overtime just to get them to us, and we will be voting on things we don't know. Those members' exact words were, we need to do this for leverage to get what we want from the Senate. And they said, so we're going to delay them. So that's what happened. And then exactly what we said 5 days earlier came to fruition. They knew what was going to happen. I mean, look, I challenge anybody to tell me that I didn't tell everybody on the House floor that if we hold the vote on SCR 3, up or down, you're delaying the process to the point where we won't get the bills back in time from staff to make a vote on what we knew what was in the bill. They knew that. I challenge any member to say that I did not say that on the House floor days in advance. So this whole poor me and I'm crying about it, they were warned, they just didn't believe it or they didn't care. I can't tell you which one it is, but that's the truth.
What's the status now of the Jimmy Davis Bridge? We understand that it's going to move forward. The contract's already been signed, but we have to put the money back in next spring. Is that kind of where we are?
Yeah, and look, I mean, that's kind of where we are. It's fine. It's moving forward. It was not delayed because the money that I reduced is P5 money that can be put back. It's not gone forever. So next spring we can come back and fix it, which I'm glad because I've actually sponsored a bill my last term that funded mega projects, and the Jimmy Davis Bridge was one of the mega projects that I have listed. Your representative wanted to switch it to I-49 North, which I agreed to by amendment process. It's a very important project. I personally never would have been a part of allowing a major regional, actually statewide project like that to be cut. Now, the Houghton stuff, look, those are member amendments. Those are people saying they want. These are my desires for, if we bust a spending cap, these are things I want. So I can't really cry about if they didn't do what they said they were going to do to get those projects, they don't get them. I just think that somehow in the confusion of all of the delay tactics, Jimmy Davis Bridge got accidentally wrapped up into that by somebody and nobody had time to catch it. That's what I really believe happened, but I don't know because I wasn't there for any of it.
Tanner, can you hold on with us through the break? We want to talk to you. Talking with Tanner Magee State Representative Micah McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710keel.com.